This episode brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, which is a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer through TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com.
Welcome to My Right Stuff with your host, Grammy Award-winning record producer and inventor, Lord Toby Wright. With your co-host, Gareth Dyton, aka DJ Chunky. Here's Toby.
Hey, I'm Lord Toby Wright, and this is My Right Stuff News. In music news, Duran Duran released Future Past, and more than 40 years after first forming, they're still hard at work. The new record has all the band's hallmarks: sleek electronic dance pop, sophisticated art rock, and even some hard-hitting funk rock. Future Past features some guest artists, including producer-musician Mark Ronson, the Japanese female rock band Chai, and pianist Mike Garson, best known for his work with David Bowie. Well, that's out today, October 22nd. Elton John releases Lockdown Sessions. The 16-track record, which includes 10 unreleased songs, was recorded over the past year and a half, as Elton was forced to postpone his farewell Yellow Brick Road tour due to the worldwide pandemic. During his forced downtime, he found himself collaborating with fellow rock royalty such as Stevie Nicks, Eddie Vedder, and Stevie Wonder, as well as superstars several decades his junior, including Miley Cyrus, Dua Lipa, and Lil Nas X. Well, Lana Del Rey has announced her highly anticipated 8th studio record, Blue Banisters, following the success of her previous album, Chemtrails Over the Country Club, which was released earlier this year. Jarvis Cocker has announced a new album that serves as a companion piece to Wes Anderson's forthcoming film, The French Dispatch. Well, Peter Hook and the Light have announced a North American tour to start the fall of 2022. The Joy Division, a celebration tour, will hit 26 cities. The band will perform their albums Unknown Pleasures and Closer in their entirety, as well as a New Order opening set. Tickets are available now. Well, in film and TV news, The Electrical Life of Lewis Wayne hits theaters today. The extraordinary true story of eccentric British artist Lewis Wayne, whose playful, sometimes even psychedelic pictures helped to transform the public's perception of Cats Forever, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Claire Foy. Well, Dune opens today, a remake of the 1984 film. Based on the Frank Herbert novel, Dune tells the story of Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, who must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. Well, Succession is back on HBO after a 2-year hiatus. The 3rd season of Succession begins with Logan Roy freaking out about his future, his son Kendall plotting moves, and everyone in the Roy family scheming and saying mean things to each other. The Roy family is back, and this time they're preparing for an all-out war. In sports, F1 comes to America this weekend. Formula One is in Austin, Texas at the Circuit of the Americas, and only 6 points separate Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, with only 6 races left. Well, rumors are circulating that Colton Herta and Michael Andretti are joining Formula One. The American has been heavily linked with a seat recently amidst talks that Andretti Autosport are set to buy out Sauber and thus take over Alfa Romeo. Given he drives for the outfit's IndyCar team, and the fact that many in F1 want an American driver on the grid, Herta would be the favorite to partner with Valtteri Bottas if such a takeover were to happen. That could be really cool. In the Premier League, Chelsea sits atop the table and plays Norwich City, while second-place Liverpool plays Manchester United. And in audio gear news, Beyerdynamic have just announced a new series of products aimed at content creators. The Pro X series comprises 2 over-ear headphones and a pair of studio microphones. The DT700 Pro X and the DT900 Pro X are respectively closed back and open back headphones, both of which incorporate a number of innovative design and manufacturing techniques. They are both suitable for use with professional and consumer devices. The M70 Pro X and the M90 Pro X are microphones. The M70 Pro X is a broadcast microphone that delivers the very best sound for streamers, podcasters, vloggers, and the like. The M90 Pro X is a large diaphragm condenser microphone, and it does ship with a newly designed cat's cradle shock mount and a gooseneck pop filter, which between them should take care of any extraneous low frequencies. And you can check out Buyer Dynamic here. Now that's all the news that's making the news today, October 22nd. Now over to you, Gareth.
Oh, wow. Hey, that's great. Thanks, Toby.
Oh, hey, you're welcome, Gareth, and welcome back to My Right Stuff, which is a film, TV, sports, music, adventure, and inspirational lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and my co-host today is Mr. Gareth Dyton, a.k.a. DJ Chunky from Chunky's Choice Cuts, all the way from Wales. Hey, Gareth, what are you doing today?
Hey, I'm very, very excited about today's podcast. I'm one of my favorite bands, so I'm strapped in and ready to go.
One of my faves as well. And today we have this kick-ass band. They're called Death Set. They are originally from Australia, way down under, and they now hail from the good old USA. It's time to stop your negative thinking, to light the fuse, and get set for death. So this episode, we have the motherfucking Death Set. What do you think of that, Gareth?
Oh, that's incredible. But Toby, before we get stuck in, I want to first thank you and to thank all of the supporters who stream, download, watch and support My Right Stuff. Please keep spreading the word, our friends. We both really, really appreciate it. Please be sure to click on our show notes below and follow our link tree for a full list of all the channels we are streaming on, as well as all our sites and social media platforms. Also, if you are able, please follow our support link to donate to My Right Stuff. Every single dollar helps to support the crew who make all of this beautifulness possible. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as the podcast channel of your choice so you never miss a single episode. Please head on over to myrightstuff.com, click on the store tab and pick up some snazzy merch for those lovely bodies.
That's awesome. Thank you, Gareth. And well, today's guest is Death Set. I understand they have a new album out called How to Tune a Parrot after a 7-year hiatus. Gareth, don't you play them on your show, Chunky's Choice Cuts, like every week?
Yeah, certainly do. Every episode, well, bar a handful.
That's awesome. I bet they're very appreciative of that. And, let's have a nice warm welcome for Johnny and Dan, a.k.a. the motherfucking Death Set. Hey, gents, how's it going today?
We're good. Thank you, Toby.
Good, Toby. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to My Right Stuff. And on this podcast, we like to start like near the beginning. I understand you guys first met with Beau Velasco on the Gold Coast of Australia in 2005. What can you tell me about those times?
Well, it was a very cultural and beautiful landscape full of Renaissance art and fine cultural aspects of a retiree town with nothing but surfers. So basically, there's not much on the Gold Coast. There's not much except for a retiree town and kind of lots of surfing. But saying that, when we met, it was actually a little dot of a cool band scene. And I think we both went to this one night that was at this pub, and it was every Wednesday night. And there might have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 live bands, maybe, on the Gold Coast that were kind of doing like original stuff. And that's where we met. And
okay.
I think that scene was just it was a good break from the monotony of what the Gold Coast is. I mean, it's kind of like Miami without the cool Cuban influence. It's just very, it's very surfing, retiree, fun in the sun, but unfortunately not much cultural stuff to do. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Maybe Dan, maybe because I'm from there, so I kind of think worse of it. Maybe Dan has a
flew
better.
in. I kind of floated into the scene after the fact, I guess. I was from Sydney originally, and I ended up there randomly. And I stumbled into the music scene there at the time, which was fun for me for what I was doing. And I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, so I kind of just threw myself out there and just met a bunch of random people, and there was a lot of fun stuff going on there at the time. And that's where I'd met Beau originally. I met Beau back in '98.
Okay.
And we messed around with different projects, and we DJ'd a lot together. We had this project a while that was a little after the fact, and that was just before Johnny had met Beau, and the band thing had started to materialize.
Okay.
But we were all in and out of each other's lives, playing in various bands, and which revolved around this venue called the Rose and Crown at the time. But yeah, there's always been like little pockets of music and things going on there in that place.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if it's your hometown, I can see why Johnny described it the way that he did. I probably would describe my hometown exactly the same way.
Yeah, no,
but
I gave it a better.
No, it's all good. I mean, for me, I was glad to be out of my hometown and just somewhere new. Although I never thought I would end up on the Gold Coast of all places. But
right.
You know, we met some really special people there, Beau being one of them, and all these things came into focus sort of a little later on, and it was around, 2004, I think, that the first incarnations of the Death Set had begun, and Johnny and Beau had met each other, and things started swirling around in that way.
Sweet.
And yeah. Oh, hey, Coconut.
that was my little baby. Yeah, it's like the Gold Coast is an hour away from Brisbane, so it's kind of like the Jersey, you know.
Okay.
Like it's like the beaches. It's like, you know, the good Gold Coast has beautiful beaches, and like, you know, Jersey has the Jersey Shore, and it kind of has that reputation of being not the city, it's like the fact that you kind of want to get out of there. If you're doing a project that you want to take seriously, you want to get out of there. Sorry to anyone from the Gold Coast that's listening, but that's just my opinion.
No worries.
I mean, you're limited. You surely are limited. I mean, even in Australia, you can be limited just with the amount of places you can play and tour. I think touring can be difficult unless you pop through and break through into the Australian scene, and you're at that point where you can tour and make a living off the handful of major cities that are in that country.
Right.
You can make it work. But I feel like if you really want to tour hard and go nuts and kind of get a bigger scope on things, moving out into the world, well, it definitely helped the Death Set. It definitely helped us in that respect.
Awesome.
Yeah, like seeing like DIY bands with like 30 shows like in their tour list, I was like, man, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Like Dan was saying, you can really kind of only hit 4 or 5, 6 cities on the East Coast because it's just so geographically massive. Yeah. It just makes DIY touring a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And very expensive, I imagine.
For sure.
That too. Yeah,
And
totally.
the drives are long too. They're like 14-hour drives, 10-hour drives, 11-hour. So then you might have to fly. It makes more sense. And then it starts getting expensive if you're flying everywhere.
Right.
Totally.
As a DIY band.
So what was your original sort of inspiration to actually form the Death Set?
To form it?
Well, it was Beau.
Yeah, well,
it was
to actually kind of create it.
Beau was the spark for it, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it came out of this other band called Black Panda. And so Black Panda was a band that Beau had started with Dan originally. And then there were different members that had flooded through. I came in a little bit later after Dan had gone to the UK. But Black Panda was this kind of, I don't know, it was like this kind of Coach Whips style, like real bratty, like the OC's Coach Whips kind of vocals and like scuzzy punk rock. And then after Black Panda, Beau and I wanted to move to Sydney because we wanted to move to a bigger city and try and give it a bit more of a shot. And then I think like coming down to it, like going from a 3-piece to a 2-piece, just essentially made all the beats electronic, and it also made the whole project more electronic. There was like more. It went from like a scuzzy Coach Whips kind of band to more of an electronic punk band. I hate electro punk.
Gotcha.
It doesn't, that word doesn't really gel with me to describe the Death Set, I don't think. But it was like a drum machine punk band.
Yeah.
It was like drum machine punk, I think.
Yeah.
And so that was the origins. We like lived. Yeah. What's that?
That's a new one, drum machine punk.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
it's a good genre.
No, I just love the fact that every time it gets described, it's like a new thing.
Totally. It's been like 15 years of that. Totally. Yeah. So it went to Sydney, and then we put a picture of a New York City subway map on the wall, and we're like, we're going to move to New York. And within a year, we moved to New York.
But first, you moved to Sydney and you converted a warehouse into a studio, right?
Yeah, I mean, a warehouse to a studio in inverted commas. I mean, we're subletting a room off a flamingly gay glass artist who was making these glass windows, who would just watch Beau painting the whole time. And if you say a studio, it was really like a shitty old guitar amp and an MPC and a couple of speakers. But I mean, we made it happen.
I was trying to be nice.
Exactly.
That's actually all you need, though, isn't it?
I mean, it was a horrible place when my parents came to visit me. Like, it was literally like you're living like a homeless person in a someone else's studio. It's like the ripped up, terrible mattress, just like rats. We had like junkies sleeping outside our front door. It was an experience, but it was awesome. It was very cool.
Gotcha. Okay.
That university degree really got you places, China.
It took me right there. Yeah.
So, I actually imagine then it was like kind of work all day, party all night.
That's certainly was the story of our lives for a while.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, it was more. Well, I mean, it was tricky.
You guys were working. You guys were really trying to figure stuff out at the time.
At that time in Sydney, we were really grinding. It was really it was most, even though I always partied, but it was mostly just like grinding.
Right.
You really circumnavigated around the actual reality of that situation then quite nicely, didn't you?
So when did you guys play your first shows?
First show was in that warehouse in Sydney. It was actually in the warehouse next to it, and that was the first show. So we played like 2 or 3 shows in Sydney, maybe 4, and then pretty much like I said, we just put that picture of New York on the wall. And our next door neighbor was from Annapolis, and he put us in contact with a label in Baltimore. So we went to New York, and then like going to New York with no money is super hard. It's a grind. So, it was like very intense to get set up, where, there's times we were sleeping on trains and stuff. But after grinding there for a few months, we went to Baltimore, and I think that was our second show. It was in Baltimore. Sorry, our first show in America. Maybe it was fourth or fifth show total.
Okay.
So, you went to Baltimore and you recorded and released 2. How actually did that come about?
2 was actually recorded in Sydney, and it actually actually was remixed and remastered and released in Baltimore. But it was actually, a few of those songs were from Black Panda, the band that Dan played, or that Dan and I played in. So the songs Super Zero, Zombie. Anything else? What were the other songs that were Panda songs, Dan? It was like Super Zero, and Zombie, right?
Was the stress one of them?
No, that was
earlier.
that was written later. But regardless,
I can't remember.
yeah.
I was kind of I was gone by that point.
Yeah, so Dan was in the UK, but we did that EP and basically remixed it and released it in Baltimore.
Excellent. Well, we've reached the time for our first video from you, and it's called Negative Thinking. What can you tell us about this video?
This video was recorded in Baltimore, so a lot of the a lot of the scene people. It was all a really cool scene in Baltimore at the time. So if you look really closely, there'll be like people from Future Islands. There'll be Dan Deacon. It's a lot of like people pre-blowing up that you'll notice if you look real closely.
I'm not trying to be unfair. It's just that negative thinking can ruin your life. Negative thinking. Negative thinking. Negative thinking. If I found cynicism, I'd wrap it in a blanket of the contentment. Fuck that. I feel better knowing that I decided not to. When you were looking round, you veered to the right. Did you notice that? And I feel better knowing that I decided not to. In hindsight, I don't want to be like the people I liked. In thinking.
Oh wow, guys! I absolutely love that track. I think that was the first Death Set track I ever heard, and then that's what kind of got me kind of drawn into you musically. You then went on to do Rad Warehouse's Bad Neighborhoods. How long at that time had those songs sort of been around for?
So, like, oh man, it's been so long. I'm trying to like figure the timeline. If that was, I think Beau and I wrote those songs. So the EP2 had been done in Sydney, and then we released that, we toured that, and then I think the songs from Rad Warehouses we wrote in Baltimore, and then I had to leave to go back to Australia, and then Beau quit. Beau quit and went and did tattooing full time, and so I had to go and figure out my visa in Australia, and then I think we released Rad Warehouse's Bad Neighborhoods after that. I think this is like 15 years ago. It's like the timeline is a little spotty.
Well, that's probably because your live shows became very legendary and were known for one hell of a party, right? Was that always the plan?
100%.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Nice.
100%. Like the live shows were
Awesome.
meant to be manic from day one, and that's regardless of whatever incarnation it was,
Yeah.
whether it was Black Panda from the start with Dan and Beau, or the new Black Panda, or the first
Yeah.
Death Set, or the later versions of the Death Set. The whole idea was chaos and just
Yeah.
high energy, balls to the wall, blood, sweat, just hanging from the rafters.
Gotcha. Good.
I
I've
think-
been waiting to pull you up.
I think in a previous interview I said blood, sweat, and cum, and then I was like, we pack as many kids into a way, and Dan was like, that did not sound like very right. So it was blood, sweat, and hanging from the rafters. We'll stick with.
All
Yeah,
right.
that'll do. That'll
For actually like sort of legal reasons, you know,
Yeah,
actually stick to that.
you can take some things a bit out of context, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
So, is actually that very much kind of still actually the plan then going forward for like sort of your next live shows?
The energy of the shows, it'll definitely maintain and continue. Yeah. For as long as we're
Awesome.
playing, and for
Good.
as long as we can stand and function to the degree that we can get on a stage and play shows,
Nice.
always endeavor to bring it with the same energy, regardless. It'll always be like that.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, 100%.
So where did you guys record the album worldwide?
The album worldwide was recorded in a Baltimore warehouse.
Okay.
And it was a warehouse called the Copycat Building, which was an artist warehouse space, and it was like I mentioned before, it was this real little petri dish of artists that actually turned out to be quite huge, like Dan Deacon or Beach House and Ponytail, Future Islands, and all these bands
Cool.
hadn't really put out their real big records yet. They were just kind of doing their first EPs, small releases, and first tours. So it was in this warehouse, and we just recorded in that warehouse. And for some reason, every single album has just taken forever to finish and put out. And so that it's just a fucking curse, man. Like, that album was finished, and then I had to go back to Australia and then come back, and then that was a delay. Then we ended up mixing it in Baltimore, and then we changed labels, and then Ninja Tune ended up buying out our Baltimore label Morpheus. So by the time it was finished, it actually was like years, till we put it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's the same with this record. It's the same with Michelle Picard too. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe it's just like that for everyone. I don't know. Feels like a curse, to be honest.
So I believe on Worldwide, Johnny produced, engineered, and mixed it yourself. Wow, that's really quite some skill set, really.
No, I didn't.
Did you actually get much experience to actually kind of hone those skills?
I didn't mix it. So I produced it, and I recorded it, produced it. I'm not a mixing engineer. Dan is a mixing engineer. So I did the production, and if you we got and also it was Beau as well. I mean, I was kind of writing doing the Pro Tools side of it, but as Beau was producing it as much as me. So we were doing the production together. But then we took the mixing to Rob Girardi at Lord Baltimore Studios, and he's a good engineer. But I mean, he didn't really he didn't really understand it. He was like, okay, so there's no dynamics in the drums. You basically want to make your vocals sound like a telephone and bury it in the mix. Like, that's what you're going for? And I was like, yeah, totally.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, obviously you do.
So in terms of mixing, it's I don't know, it's maybe some people might not say it was mixed in the sense of a regular mix.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I think that brings us for time for another video, and it's time for the video intermission. What do you think about that?
Koichi is very happy because now he has some money.
5, 5, 5, 5.
Oh man, I love that song so much. You know, it's one of the first songs I think I ever heard that basically had sort of a drum machine solo in it, and I just love the fact that it's got that sort of 9-10 second like sort of drum machine solo in it.
This is a real fucking like anthology. I didn't realize we would be like we're like literally talking through like. So how long you got, guys? Jesus.
It's really testing our ability to recall.
That's awesome.
That's great. It's a really wonderful exercise in doing just that.
Exactly. Well, that album puts you on a global scale, playing dates and events all over the globe, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one that, you know, because we put it out on Ninja Tune, that was, you know, obviously a decent sized indie label. You know, they pushed it. They pushed it, and we were able to tour it really hard.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's when Dan joined, right?
So talking about touring,
I joined just after you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's correct. I joined just after you signed to Ninja Tune and that record came out, Worldwide came out.
Yeah.
And I'd been in the UK previously, and then I'd moved to the States, and was fortunate enough to just come into the States with the visa ready, as we had the label support there. So yeah, that was that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think Dan had played drums on one tour to Chicago. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then
it was in Europe. It was your first European tour. I think it was a month in Europe.
That's right.
And I drummed. That was like 2006, I think, or 2006. Yeah, 2006. 7.
That's right. And that's kind of when we realized that having like the live drums just made the world of difference, especially live. It just went from this kind of, you know, it just it went from this kind of like kitschy drum machine thing to when it had live drums, it really, I think it just brought the energy up to another level.
Oh, no, that's right. I totally remember now. I drummed when Beau was in the band too, like even before the fact.
Totally.
I came to the States, that's right.
Yeah, that was in
that was the very
first Chicago
time I toured with you guys. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Actually, like sort of talking about touring, where's been your favorite place to play?
Paris for me has always been super fun and vibrant, and just was a really cool scene at the time. And I'm sure it still is. But in that particular little era, in that moment that we were going through there and playing shows, it was super fun.
Sweet. Yeah, totally. Me too. Brooklyn and Baltimore, I just think just because we've spent the most time in those cities and probably played the most shows in those cities. Yeah. But it's also, Paris. It really, like, my favorite shows are like the cramped DIY, throw like as many people into a real small, like shitty warehouse or even boutique or something, like with a crappy little sound system and just go crazy. And and it kind of depends on what
just go and tear the place
crew
apart.
there is, like Dan was saying, there's this really sick crew in Paris that would always put on these great shows for us. Yeah. But like even I remember this crew in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where you just wouldn't think, it, but it was just the best shows, and it's just I don't know, like give me like a sweaty DIY shitty warehouse with a crappy sound system over a $1 million sound system in a fancy club any day. It's just I just prefer those shows so much more.
There were some fun DIY spots in the States. There was like a handful of memorable ones. There was that one, where was it, in I think Arkansas, Rad House. That was always a pretty fun spot.
Totally.
Yeah, a lot of cool random places.
That's awesome. So I guess then you prefer to play basement clubs instead of festivals and big, huge events.
I mean, I love festivals. Festivals are sick. I just like, I mean, there's something about when people are like falling over you, and like the microphone's getting jammed in your eye, and people are like pulling your guitar cord out, and all these things sound like terrible things, but it's just I just like that stuff. I mean, I kind of come from that. When I first saw that Lightning Bolt documentary, The Power of Salad and Milkshakes, I was like, fuck, those are the sort of shows that I want to play. That's what's up. Like, that's the scene that I wanted to be a part of.
It's crazy too, because I think like originally a lot of the early Death Set shows, they were all on the floor as well.
Okay.
And I remember playing the first few shows that that first tour that I was drumming with you guys, they were all on the floor. And all my finer memory, like my best memories of playing in the Death Set, have been floor shows. There's just something about it puts you just in more direct contact with the audience, and there's just a camaraderie from the very beginning of the show. There's just that little layer, that little level of stage just creates this little psychological block. We've had to managed, and we've managed to get over it over the years and just dealt with it and done it.
Right.
But there's something to be said about playing on the floor and annoying the sound engineer and telling them that
just actually.
And I think also it's like, as an audience member, when you're, it's like if you go to a show and watch it, or you are part of a show. When you're a part of a show, you're in the front, you're bouncing around, you're sweating on the band. It's like they're two different entities to me, and I'm so appreciative of those type of shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Around that time, obviously you played in Reading and Leeds Festival in actually the UK, and that was the first time that actually papers like sort of The Enemy and that actually like kind of picked you up. Was actually that a help or like sort of a hindrance?
You mean the press?
Mm-hmm. Press was good.
I mean, the press was good.
From memory. Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, was there... Go ahead.
I mean, I guess it's tricky because, you know, you always, you know, with press comes like labeling, right? And, you know, it's always tricky when you're starting to get labeled. So sometimes because we were on an electronic label, we would start playing the electronic stages. And then when we would play on an electronic stage, people would just be like, what the fuck is this? Like, you know, I'm high on an E. I'm like, you know, I'm high on an E and I've come to dance, and what the fuck is this like band like spazzing around? So there's kind of like pros and cons to that, I guess. But I mean, you know,
we were always caught in that limbo.
Yeah, totally. We're always we never really, people never really knew what to do with us. You know, and then we would play on the rock or the punk stages, and people would just be like, what the fuck, these guys are playing like hip hop samples and there's electronics, and it was always just, it never seemed to fit in, which I like that. I mean, I like the fact that we didn't fit in, but it also caused some, you know, a little bit of annoying problems. But in terms of press, fuck it, you know, fuck it. I mean, I loved taking it from a warehouse to stages as well. You know, definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So with you know, after the Reading festival and the Enemy experience, was there an expectation upon you? Like, how did you manage that expectation?
We did a bunch of ketamine, from what I remember.
That's great. I love that answer.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, well, we'll just leave that.
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, there's your pull quote right
there. Oh my goodness.
From a timeline perspective, that obviously brings us to the very sad death of Beau, and that clearly hit you both ever so hard. And then you immortalized him with the incredible Michel Picard album. I mean, that must have been a really difficult time for you guys.
Yeah, it was fucked. I mean,
totally.
I mean, it just sucked because, you know, obviously, I mean, it's hard pressed to meet anyone or talk to anyone that hasn't been hurt by someone that's been, you know, died from the disease of addiction. You know, it's like it's so widespread and rampant and common, but it doesn't make it any easier. You know.
Right.
No,
and
not at all.
I mean, what do you say? You know, I mean, the whole thing was like he had just rejoined the band. We were literally about to move from Philadelphia to Brooklyn and all get in a warehouse together and start writing the new album. And then that happened. And it's like, I mean, I don't know what else to say, but it was just like heartbreaking, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost a whole bunch of friends to that same thing. And it's really, really difficult. And so, you know, I've had a bunch of, you know, band members that have, you know, passed away and stuff like that. And it's really sad, but somehow they kept going. So how difficult was the decision to continue without Beau after that?
There was, I don't know, for me,
Sorry to get so emotional.
For me, no, not at all. I mean, I feel like for me, it was just there was just a section of time that just had to pass while we processed things. But in the back of my mind, I felt like that it had to keep moving forward. I think to not have done it wouldn't have honored the situation.
Understood.
You know?
Yep.
Totally. I don't know what else to say about it either. Really, it was hard work. I know that much.
And
I agree.
I think
always is.
When you talk about a band, there's so many different parts that make up a band, and there's so much effort that goes into those parts. It's not only the joining together and the writing of the music, it's the playing of the shows, it's the admin, the doing the shows, the making the t-shirts, the emails. It's years, and it's like up to that point it was probably almost I can't even remember, 2008, you know, 5 years where we've been doing nothing but this band. It's so much work.
Right.
And you know, and so like, you know, not only, it's almost like a discredit to how much work each of us had put in to quit at that point. You know, like, and I don't think that would have been the right response. And I also don't think that Beau would have wanted that. You know, I can only guess. Yeah. You know,
sure.
It was certainly not in his spirit to quit something in the face of, you know, a tragedy.
Right.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Just take what you have, take what remains, and make it work, and keep pushing, and keep doing art, and keep having fun, and keep living, basically.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was therapeutic, in a lot of ways, writing that record. And I mean, we'll never write another record like that because of the actual time period that it was written in. And and I'm really proud of that record. And you know, I think we kind of ventured into territories that we probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for the mental space that we're in at that time because of that situation.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. You brought in, I believe it was Triple Exchange to actually produce the album. Why actually did you choose to work with him?
Because we didn't know another good producer. Maybe.
Now you do.
No.
As good a reason as any.
There was no one that wanted to work with a deathbed except Alex.
I mean, funny.
You guys had history though.
Yeah,
you guys had history though.
I mean, actually, when we actually started, well, I mentioned before that we knew someone. We actually moved to America with our next door neighbor from Sydney, and he knew this woman called Emily Rabbit, who put out our first 2 EPs. So she had actually been friends with Spank Rock, and Triple Exchange he wrote the first Spank Rock record with Naeem. So when I actually stayed in Alex Triple Exchange's apartment when I first got off the plane to America, just through that connection.
Oh, sweet.
So we'd actually had that relationship, and it was actually Spank Rock who got us on. Well, it was the connection with Spank Rock that got us on Ninja Tune, because they put out their first record on Big Data, which is the hip hop sister imprint of Ninja Tune. So it was kind of like a natural. I think actually the idea came from Peter Quick, who is the boss of Ninja Tune, and he kind of was just like, "Hey, you guys are buddies. Why don't you work together?" And it just came from that, I think.
Right.
And I think at that point we were so much of like a DIY band that it really didn't enter our universe to do that. But I'm so glad that we did, because he's a genius.
That's awesome. Well, the first song you released was Slap, 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 Pound Up, Down, Snap. What can you tell us about this video we're about to watch?
You just got to learn the handshake, man.
Secret handshake.
It's all about the secret handshake, right?
Exactly.
Slap, 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 pound up, down, snap. 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 You want switch, click underneath, it's an attack. Bring it back and you get slapped. I'm bumping like a primo all the way, cause it has that. On the run with my PMA gun. Back up with the broken eardrum. Sorry, snitch, your face was on sunshine. Run, run, run in the 2 a.m. song. Slap, 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 pound up,
I just wanted to say I love that video so much. It actually like sort of reminds me of actually like sort of a Jackass sketch of you guys playing live whilst actually being in the back of a truck. It's just bonkers.
Right?
Thanks.
It was fun.
Well, it brought a very deep and meaningful edge to your music while retaining the fun and the party vibes you always have had. So how important was that to you to bring all that along?
Yeah, I mean, videos are so fucking hard, right? Because, you know, like good videos cost so much. It costs so much money. So you're really like, you're really like. I mean, in my experience, you're really dependent on making friends with videographers, and so, like, really, like, because otherwise, you know, especially if you're a DIY band, you don't have that $10,000 budget. So, or, you know, on 10 or upwards, you know, people are spending ridiculous amounts of money on videos. So the director was a friend. His name was Colin Devon Moore.
Okay.
And he'd done a few cool videos for Matt and Kim, and he just happened to be Beau's best friend in New York. So he wanted to make this epic video for us. So, you know,
awesome.
It's just super talented artist.
So, with the actual like sort of Michael Picard album, you actually like kind of brought some guests along, and you've kind of alluded that kind of most of them were kind of friends. So is that kind of how that happened?
Yeah, who were the guests? It was Spank
Rock,
Diplo.
Diplo was on one of the
Diplo.
And Diplo.
Yeah. I mean, Spank Rock's been a friend for forever. Diplo was a friend from Philly. I mean, kind of more of an acquaintance, really. There was a funny story. What was the story? There was a funny story where he thought I'd punched him in the face. So he was wrestling with one of the guys from Cerebral Palsy. Like everyone was at South by Southwest.
Right.
And he was wrestling with one of the drummer from Cerebral Palsy. And I think someone punched him in the face because they thought they were fighting. They thought they were fighting. And then he thought that I'd punched him in the face, which I didn't. And so he came over to the apartment, right? And then he was like, "Yeah, why'd you punch me in the face?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "I didn't." And then he's like, "All right, cool. Yeah, let's write a song."
Awesome. It's a good way to end
it. Awesome. Yeah, that's actually sort of a good way to end a beef. Yeah.
That's great.
And so we just drunk tea. We just drunk like a bunch of tea and made a song in our warehouse in Brooklyn. It was a little
mushroom
weird.
Tea.
Oh man, who knows? Who knows back in those times?
Exactly. Well, the next video we're going to show is They Come to Get Us. Would you gentlemen care to comment on They Come to Get Us before we show it?
That video is the craziest video that we have. It's insane.
I think so.
We'll be forever in love with it.
I think so.
Cool.
And the artist that put that whole thing together, we are eternally grateful for the work that he did on that video. It was absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. What a fucking animal. He literally like just filmed a few snippets, then like 9 months later, like a baby delivered this actual fucking masterpiece. It was just what an animal.
Yeah, it was crazy. We're blown away.
We had no idea what he was gonna give us. He just gave it to us. It's really quite.
He was just a fan, guy. Yeah, he's just a fan.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I think we played.
That's really good.
We played with his band in the French countryside because I remember the show. It was this like
it's
French.
I think.
Yeah, like this French power violence band called Vomit for Breakfast, which is a pretty easy name to remember. Right. And then I think he was at that show, and he was there, and he just hit us up. He was like, "I want to make a video for you guys." Which is, basically like what I was saying before. Yeah. It's like with videos, you just don't know what you're gonna get. Like it's unless you're on like a major label who has like 50 grand to spend on a video, it's so hit or miss. And that video was that was hit, killed it.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
What the fuck, dude?
Silence, Earthling! My name is Darth Vader. I am an extraterrestrial from the planet Vulcan. We don't want to scare anybody.
Coming from everywhere.
UFOs, are they real or are they fake?
Oh man, I love that video so much. It is, like you said, it is such a fucking monster. It is incredible. To actually like kind of hear that story behind it as well just makes it kind of seem even better now. You know, thank you, fellas.
Thank you to Gilliam.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, he did it right.
Yeah.
So you have Beau's voice on the album, right? Two questions: like, how important was it to have his voice there, and how did you achieve that?
I think Johnny had some. I think which record, the Michel Picard record, right? There was some Beau.
Yeah.
There was some Beau snippets on that. I think Johnny had some cassette stuff, maybe the blow up your cassette deck or whatever he said at the start of the record.
Okay.
And then I think I had something that was in there. And then, there was that one piece where he was talking about a French dog or something. There was a dog in an elevator, and he was he was chewing his dog. I can't even remember. It was ridiculous. But Beau was just such a strange human being. I remember we were working together. This was back on the Gold Coast before any of this happened. It was before even Panda. We were working on electronic music at the time because we were DJing. And I would be in the studio just working on stuff, and Beau was always on missions. He was always he was here, then he was there, and he was doing something. He was running around, and then he just came into the studio one day randomly and just said, "I've got this idea," and then so I set up the mic for him, and he just went into this dialogue about how he met this girl, but he wasn't sure if it was a French girl or a dog, or it might have been a dog, or blah blah blah. And he was in an elevator, and he was looking at some shoes or something. It was this whole story. And it was so ridiculous, but he'd do that a lot. So I have all these little random snippets of when he'd just suddenly one day make an appearance in the studio and just say something crazy and then just leave again.
Nice.
So that was the origins of that little snippet. I'm not sure where the other stuff came from. Maybe it was from my drive as well. I'm not sure.
I think I think it was your drive, and I think we had some old samplers. There was a sampler that we just literally plugged in that we hadn't plugged in for years, and there was some cool, like vocal samples of his on it, and then some literally like zip discs. Do you guys remember zip discs? It was like it was like the disc after a floppy disk. So like these zip discs you would put into like old samplers, like an MPC 2000. So it was like these little snippets where we had to like literally go mining all these old like old sessions, old samplers, and just found some cool shit that we could use.
That's awesome.
Because I think the line is something like, I want to take this tape and blow up your fucking stereo. And that's basically how like sort of the album starts. And I just feel I think it's a really apt mission statement for you guys as a band. And I think it paid the kind of ultimate respect to Beau then as well.
100%. Yeah, totally.
Perfect.
Beau was really good at that. Beau was really good at like mission statements and like he was especially good at as an artist. He was especially good at framing the project and giving it meaning. And I remember like when we lived in that crappy warehouse in Sydney, he would literally just write in Sharpie on the wall words that would go with the project. So he would be like, the Death Set, and he would write it on the wall, and it would be distorted microphones, Run DMC, coach whips, highbrow, lowbrow. And he would just like literally just be writing these words that he would want to associate with this project. And I think like coming back to what you're saying, that I want to take this tape and blow up your fucking stereo. It just reminds me of that just artist quality of him, of bringing something mental into tangible form.
Awesome.
We're actually now going to watch the video to "I Miss You, Beau" Velasco. Man, that is such a kind of tremendous video, and actually kind of such a great tribute to a very, very dear friend. Thank you very much for sharing that with us.
So you guys made lots of videos for many songs on this album. Was that always the plan?
I mean,
not all of them.
Yeah.
Some just kind of popped up.
Yeah, really, like very much.
Okay.
So. It feels like, I mean, from how I recall it, people were just psyched a lot of the time, I think, and just wanted to work, and they knew where we were from. They knew we were doing pretty DIY, and money was not really sort of around us a lot. So people would, they would come through and help out and do videos.
That's awesome.
Totally.
Super.
Yeah. Most people were just obviously doing videos for us for free because we could only pay for the the costs. So like that's why it's very differing quality. You'll have like They Come to Get Us, which is $100,000 video, whatever it would be, and then it's just you just never know what you're gonna get with videos.
Right.
Where you get videos where you get videos that I make in the vegetable garden with Dan.
A real hit.
So after the kind of Picard album, you went on to do the King Babies EP. So how actually did that come about? And was there any difference in actually the writing style or actually kind of process for that?
We kept that record all in-house pretty much as far as recording and production.
Okay.
And mixing went. Mastering, I think the label dealt with that. DMAC dealt with that. But I think, how did that eventuate, Johnny? So the DMAC reached out to you. I think they were Steve was always, apparently, he was psyched with the death set, and he always kind of had a close ear to the ground on what we were up to, I think. And he had a background with hardcore himself and played in punk bands, so he was always quite curious about it, I think.
I mean, if you're a kid who listens to DMAC, you would obviously associate it with the bubblegum EDM festival style music, but originally DMAC was a hardcore 7-inch label, and they put out punk bands. So I think when it came to, they wanted us to be their 500th release. So I think they wanted to like pay respects to their earlier punk origins, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Much to the dismay of the current clientele of DMAC.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the people were just like, what the fuck is this? It seems to be like a recurring theme with us.
Right.
Well, I mean, that was a prime example of the death set landing. That was the prime example of us landing in a situation where everyone was psyched for what we're doing. We were psyched to be working with DMAC, and they were super psyched to be working with us too. And the feelings were mutual there. But again, it was a situation where we landed in that the fit was not necessarily maybe the right thing.
Right. And gotcha.
Yeah. But it is what it is. It's there. It's archived. We were the 500th DMAC release. The death set. It's there.
That's killer.
We did it.
I mean, I like that EP, and I mean, I think.
Yeah, I do. So
fun to write.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we were definitely touring a whole lot less at that point, and
right.
I think I think that EP was. I think that EP was almost like the precursor to this album, because it was the first one that we kind of wrote. Dan and I wrote in the studio 100% together, and then Dan was handling mixing and production. And I don't know. I think like Dan said, it was a moment in time. I definitely remember being very high a lot of the time while I was in the studio. So I don't know how much of a good
just that one time.
I don't know how much of a good studio partner I was at that time. I think I might have been a better studio partner in this album. I don't think I was very helpful a lot of the time around that time. But,
that'll happen, you know.
At least, like, you're honest about it.
C'est la vie.
So you guys had a video and a song called Light the Fuse. You guys want to comment on that before we play it here on My Right Stuff?
Pizza Party. Was that what it was? The
Pizza Party.
Pizza video?
Yeah, Pizza Party.
Oh, that was
yeah,
the pizza
video.
That was my still wife wearing a pizza as a bikini, which I'm not sure if she's too stoked about these days.
Okay.
Forever immortalized in a Death Set video.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
That's about it, right?
No, it's a pizza theme. The pizza theme. You guys, it's a pizza theme for what it's worth.
Yeah, and that was like a Dimac thing, I think, for some reason. There's like throughout that whole release, there was this ongoing pizza theme, and I don't know if that's an ongoing theme or it was just happening at the time that we were putting that record together. But there was pizza everywhere all the time, and I couldn't really figure it out what was going on. But again, Stella V, I guess that's what it was at the time.
Right.
I do like that song. It was because we'd somehow came into ownership of this old Moog Prodigy, which was this wooden like Moog Prodigy synthesizer that was just this amazing old synthesizer that was completely out of tune and but it was just a beast. And I think the bass line of that song. Oh, it's right there.
Oh, and there it is now. Yeah.
Still got it. Yeah, still got it.
Still have it.
And
that's one of the best.
Yeah, that bass line was definitely that synthesizer.
The last bass lines end up out of that thing, for sure.
As it should be.
Yeah, it's an animal.
So I got a hard question for you, maybe. The EP was really well received, and then you guys seemed to disappear for a while. What happened?
Johnny, who's going first? I feel like definitely at that point we'd kind of hit maybe a bit of a brick wall with everything, just psychologically and mentally and probably even physically. I think just from the touring and yeah, we just went and we went our separate ways a little. There was a time where we weren't really in contact for a couple of years or so, I feel like, or on and off we'd see each other, but we definitely sort of just went and did separate stuff.
Right.
I mean, I went off and set up a recording studio here in Brooklyn, which I ran for the past 7 years before I got fully into mastering records only, which I do now. Johnny went and set up a bar and did that. So we kind of just, I think really we were just looking at some other stuff to do because we'd been on the road so intensely. And Johnny even longer than I had been because, I stepped into the band a couple of years after the fact. So I think it was just, it was something that was not even spoken. I feel like it was maybe just a natural process that just unfolded for the good of our sanity at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there actually always a plan to sort of return, or kind of where things just kept open?
I felt like personally that it was that I felt that I was prepared that was it, and I was sufficed with that. I was like, felt really grateful that I'd had the opportunity to be in a band as insane as the Death Set, and had been able to share that time with two of my closest friends, and I was happy. But apparently that. It's not the end. It's not the end.
Oh well.
Here we are having this conversation.
Right.
Which actually, personally, as a fan, I'm really, really pleased about.
Right. Exactly. Me too.
We're glad to bring you new music. We're psyched. I mean, I'm psyched. I'm sure Johnny is too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was for me, like Dan said, we toured so fucking hard and so broke and so intensely that we're definitely burnt out. And, like there's something to be said about driving like 8 hours to Cleveland to play for 20 people for $100, and that's awesome. But there comes a time when it's not awesome, and you just you just want to. Yeah. I mean, for myself, I'd met a girl, I got married, and I started this bar, and it was just life gets in the way sometimes,
Absolutely.
And I think, like I said before, I was taking way too many drugs, and I had to figure my shit out. So I got sober, and so I've been like clean and sober for 8 years now, and I couldn't have continued the way that I was going as well. So there were many different things that needed to be sorted out in my head before I could really write more music. But I think once Dan and I literally got back in the studio again, we were like, fuck, this is just so much fun. And I mean, it was just, like when we're in the studio, we're just literally making each other laugh and telling stupid jokes. And it just made sense to write another record as soon as we were really back in the studio intensely. It just felt, it felt like all those years it was just back to when we were in the studio before. It wasn't a big deal.
Right.
But better too, I felt like, I mean, to be honest, I mean, I know I was in that place. I mean, Johnny admittedly too. There was, we got shit done in the past, but there was a lot of dysfunction, like that simmered as an undercurrent throughout the whole thing that affected both of us at various levels,
Right.
And I think for me, it was intense doing those records, those early records. It was hard work psychologically, but I felt doing this record, I'm not sober in the traditional sense, though I adjusted my lifestyle in a very dramatic way. That is a far cry from how I used to, be in the past. But coming together after that time of having cleared a lot of that stuff out and coming back into a creative space and working together again.
Right.
Like I really enjoyed the process. It was just a really fun record to write. It's always been fun, but this was just a little more relaxed, like psychologically relaxed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, as fun as it was, like, you know, like the drug and alcohol fueled shows were a lot of fun to play, but drug and alcohol fueled like album writing is very stressful, you know, and
It's hard too.
yeah, like, so I think like both being sober writing this album was like so much easier, even though it was still a process.
Still didn't
Like,
get it done any quicker.
it definitely didn't get it done any quicker, but I think like psychologically it wasn't as torturous. Like, I mean, there are parts of album writing which are torturous just naturally, being as a creative project. But I mean, just in the terms of, you know, just in terms of relationships, you know, when you're trying to have a relationship with anyone, drugs and alcohol usually aren't a good recipe.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
Amen.
not. You know, it's just. I mean, and I mean, and I'm far from one to fucking get on my soapbox, because I think a lot of things I think a lot of things that came out of drug and alcohol abuse actually, you know, a lot of crazy, insane shows which drug and alcohol abuse probably made better. You know, I'm not this fucking like like I'm not like on my soapbox saying, you know, like this is, you know, everyone be clean and sober, but I mean that I do think if you want to maintain a friendship or a relationship with someone for a long period of time, it helps. You know, and
definitely.
Yeah, I think this last process, I don't know if we would have had another album in us if we weren't both coming to it clean and sober.
Right.
Yeah. I don't feel like it would have happened, for sure.
Yeah.
It would have been a very different situation.
Right. Well, you both recorded and wrote the new album, How to Tune a Parrot, and before the pandemic took effect on the world. How'd you go about that?
How did we go about it? Well, I had my recording studio here in Brooklyn, the Submarine Studio, at the time. So we did it all there for the most part. We wrote the songs there, and we tracked pretty much everything there except some of the drumming. My uncle actually drummed on a handful of the tracks, so we tracked that back in Australia, in Sydney.
Okay.
And actually everything else, bar those drums, everything was done here in Brooklyn at the Submarine at the time that it was running.
Right.
Cool.
Actually, in fact, that record was pretty much the last project before that building that I was in, and the Submarine that was the end of that era, and it changed up. Yeah, the Death Set was the last project that I was dealing with in that space.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, we did everything there.
Yeah, it was a funny story. Dan was working on this loop pack, because you know, like how producers like will get loop packs, so you'll like, you know, you'll get a CD and it will have 1,000 drum breaks by whatever producer, you know what I mean, by Madlib or whatever.
Right.
So Dan had been asked to do a Death Set loop pack, and asked me to come into the studio. And so, like, about 3 days in, we were just grinding in the studio these 8-hour days, just doing, like, you know, I don't know, 30 or 40 loops in a day. And you know, you had, honestly, to do the amount of work that they wanted us to do, they're asking for like 500 loops or something. I was just like, dude, let's just write a record. Wow. What are we doing?
Right.
Let's just write a record. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I've still got enough loops that we did from that time to probably write another 2 albums.
I'm sure.
Material already ready to. Yeah, those projects are hard work. I mean, a lot of people do them. A lot of producers do them.
Yep.
And a lot of producers that are successful with them make money off them. But I can't really hang in that arena. I can't really. I find it really. I don't know. It's a lot of work. And as Johnny said too, if I'm going to dedicate that amount of time in the studio and to music, then I'd prefer to write an album or work on a project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's that.
And I think like just being back in the studio together, we're really just, like I said before, it's just we're just hanging out and making each other laugh and getting very little done. So it's like it's not really work. It's just
is that why
Right.
it took so long?
it's just kind of like hanging out. So, I mean, if you would think we would be a bit more focused, but the focus hasn't seemed to have.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we've discussed this before. It's nuts too. And I mean, I've been producing and engineering and do it for a long time, but still, even after this album, we're making these ridiculous mistakes like that had happened to us in the past as well, where we'd write songs and they would make sense and we'd be singing them in the studio and we'd write the track and then we'd produce the track and then mix the track and it's mastered and now it's on the album and it's ready to go and go, okay, now we need to rehearse it because we want to play it.
Right.
And it's like two tones too high out of our range. We can't sing it. So we have to retune the whole backing track so that we can actually sing the song that we wrote to begin with. So there was still a lot of that where I'm like, have I not learnt from this situation that we already dealt with 10 years ago?
Happens to a lot of people, though.
For sure. And I mean, you can only laugh at these things in the grand scheme of it all. You know what I mean?
Right, of course.
Obviously, the first song you came back with was Elephant. So what actually can you tell us about the song and the video?
The song was one of the like stream of consciousness lyrics. So like I just remember, I think like there's a few different styles of lyric writing that we have. You know, some is like, all right, Dan, you write a verse and I'll write a verse. I think for this song, it was literally just stream of consciousness, just like get it out as quick as possible, just bam, 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 bam. And so that was like this kind of, because there's a lot of songs where we were literally painstakingly just can't write a chorus for like months, but that was not this song. This song, the lyrics were banged out real quick, and the video was just the video because I was working for a video production company, and then I had my friend shoot it. The same thing, you just asking all these favors for people. So I had my friend shoot this video, and it was and the whole premise was bad Dan and bad Johnny versus good Dan and good Johnny. So all this kind of self-care, good routines versus self-destructive, old death set Dan and Johnny routines. But I like that. I like that song and I like that video, and I think it'll be a fun one to play live.
I experience life as a joyous dance.
that video. It's just so much fun. It just actually looks like you had such a blast doing it.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
I was going to say that you guys have another video because you have lots and lots of videos and we want to play a lot of them. But the next song, the video is Nowhere Is Here. Can you comment on Nowhere Is Here before we check this out?
I like that song. I can't remember how it came about, but and I'm not even sure what the lyrics even really represent. I think it was, it was for me, actually, if I recall correctly, it was sort of just the twilight zone of kind of endless touring, I think, and just kind of not really having a home or not really having a place to be, even though we had a base in New York or whatever, but just being in that constant mode of motion all the time.
Right.
It gets kind of surreal. You're not really living life like a normal person in that respect.
Okay.
So I feel like that's where those lyrics in that song came from.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the video was shot in my garage. And, you know, coming back to DIY, it's very DIY, just hung like a green screen, a backdrop in my garage, and was like, all right, Dan, get naked, and shot Dan naked playing a guitar.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, that's what.
And then, so it's like, all right, so get naked, Dan, and then I'll shoot you. And then I just basically twisted both of our heads backwards in a Exorcist style video treatment.
Back, 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 back. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had to move far away just to keep my head straight. I had to leave my favorite place to build to some better days. And when it's all said and done, oh, to the moment that it's just begun. Oh, to the moment, don't feel the fear. It's gonna be okay when you're not here. There's nowhere is here. There's nowhere is here. Nowhere is here. Around the clock, no sleep again. Disconnections and old friends. Stop playing hands that bring me down. The nightfall, the journey's done. So far away that we're almost home. But when I'm here, don't wanna hang around. There's nowhere is here. There's nowhere is here. Nowhere is here.
Oh man, that just looks like it was just kind of so much fun. You guys look like you have fun doing everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that was fun. That I would say that was fun. Sometimes it hasn't been fun, but I think that one was fun.
Right.
Yes, Shona, it was definitely fun being naked in your garage.
That sounds like fun.
In the freezing cold, naked in your garage in the freezing cold.
Nice.
Hilarious.
Well, turning away from your nakedness, the third song you released from the album was Fall Down. What can you remember about that one and the video, and can you comment on that?
As far as the song goes and the lyrical content, it's kind of just a snapshot crammed into 1.5 minutes of life on the road.
Cool.
And a reflective sort of look back at the past and kind of cramming it into this really fast, psychotic punk track.
Right, right.
As far as the video goes, I'll leave that one up to Johnny. Is that the one that we shot in a vegetable garden?
So I mean, you have to, you kind of have to take the time period into account. We're in the middle of the pandemic. So I mean, what do you fucking do when you're in the middle of a pandemic? You can't hire out a crew. So basically Dan just came to my house and I was like, what do I have to work with here? I've got a vegetable garden, so let's work with the vegetable garden. So maybe it's the first ever punk rock video involving a vegetable garden. Who knows?
Oh, it has to be. There's no fucking doubt about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was mildly concerned, but he pulled it together. I'll give him credit. Top marks for pulling that video together.
I could see how that would be a little concerning. Yeah, not knowing, because I was like, Dan, just trust me. We're gonna put a zucchini and a squash as as a microphone. We're gonna run out into the cornfield, and Dan's a very good sport when it comes to my little off the cuff ideas.
Punk rock vegetables, fantastic.
Oh man.
The final single you took from the new album, How to Tune a Parrot, was Set for Death. Now this is the first one I heard because you sent it to me for play on sort of Chunky's Choice Cuts when I started harassing you via social media. So first of all, thank you very much for that. And what actually can you tell us about it?
As far as the song content goes, this is certainly one of my favorite tracks to play live and to write. I think it felt like it was a relatively effortless, and it had a good energy when we were writing it. And I think the lyrics for me, they were kind of it was just, I mean, my process and my set of tools that I was utilizing to come out of all my craziness was a particular meditation technique that has helped me a lot over the last few years. And throughout the process of going deeper in that meditation, there's been a natural process that's occurred in just accepting the reality of this life that we have, and more so the process of dying as a part and parcel of this process.
Right.
So I think that was kind of the main sort of theme behind it, is just an acceptance of death, but a celebration of life in accepting that process as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like a lot of the times people will be like, well, what does the death set mean? Why do you call it the death set? And I don't really think I had a very good answer for that. And at the time, I think it was just like, oh, it just sounds like a cool gang. sounds like a cool gang that you would put on like a cut off vest, a cool patch, and I think because the truth is Beau came up with it, it would be like the dip set, the death set, but just to kind of mirror Dan's sentiment, it's kind of taken on that a deeper meaning in the sense of, like a memento mori, of which is that, the old tradition of the focus on death to really bring about a celebration of life, and just to have the idea of death being always present, to remember to celebrate the moment that you're in. And I that's the kind of meaning, that's the meaning that I like to think of it today. And,
okay.
It's been 15 years, and meanings change, and that's the meaning I'd like to give to it today.
Excellent.
That's fair enough.
Yep. I like it.
And I think the video was by that dude, by this guy, Offna, and he directed our video for Scene Straight off Michel Picard. And he was just another like guy. It was just like a French homie that was like, I want to make a video for you guys. Just like, let's make it happen. And so he came up with the idea of reenacting cinematic death scenes. So I think there's like 25 cinematic death scenes all put together in his studio in Vancouver. So we're just stoked.
There's one shot. The whole thing. Yeah.
And there's one shot. What, Dan?
Oh, I think there was a bit of a delay. I think it was done in one shot, right? I think that was the thing. That was the theme with how it was approached.
Okay.
How it was approached. They took all these death scenes and they did them all in one. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, let's check out the video Set for Death here on My Right Stuff.
Offna, what's good?
What's up?
Buddy?
Hey, dude.
You know why I'm calling, right?
Yeah, of course.
About the new music video. We need something new, fresh, like a performance.
Dogs. In dog suits.
Us playing in dog suits in the
dog park.
They're us, that's all.
Yeah, what are you doing?
No more.
What is that?
I'm watching a movie right now. Actually, it will be a good idea. What about like doing dead people in movies?
The death set. Dead people in movies.
Together and
was just going to say, like, no matter what stage of our 15 years, I think, I can't even remember when you started, Gareth, but I would always get a Twitter notification that Gareth had put us on his latest playlist. And I mean, I can't even remember. You must have been putting us on your playlist for like a decade at least.
Yeah, about 10 and a half years I've been doing the show. So yeah, I've pretty much been kind of playing you pretty much almost every show for 10 and a half years.
That's how I got turned on to you guys, man. For sure.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome.
Yeah, super grateful. Thank you.
So obviously the album is out. Can we actually expect some worldwide shows from you?
Yeah, 100%. We were actually meant to be in Europe right now. I actually got a message from someone who was like, are you playing Paris tonight? But we just, you know, like with Delta, everything, it just, the COVID just, you know, obviously just, you know, everything's being pushed back.
We know.
Everything's, you know, everyone knows.
We do.
So the plan is February, March next year, hopefully, you know, like that's the plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, is there anywhere like you're itching to play, or is it just you want to get the heck out there and play?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to just going everywhere and playing again.
Right.
And just getting that vibe of being, it's been a while, so yeah. I'm looking forward to all of it, however it unfolds. But hopefully next year is the year we're all hoping for this year.
Amen.
Next year.
Yep.
A little more open.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
We can, you know, touring's a little more. Although there's a lot of artists out on the road right now, but I think just for us and how things, you know, with the rollout of the release and etc., it just made sense to push back into next year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing. I've taken a good break. I've had a good break. I feel like I'm ready to go out and play some shows.
You feel like you're ready to go.
Excellent.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, I'm not dead yet.
Perfect.
I've got a bit of life left in these old bones.
With it actually being a while since you recorded the last album, is there any more brand new material that we haven't heard from you yet?
No.
There's actually, well, what?
Is there new material? I guess
no.
that.
No, but well, there's as far as the Japan release is concerned, there are there's two tracks.
Okay.
You're right.
On that record.
That's true.
You're not going to get on, so
gotcha.
And that was the, you know, preceding the album, all the work that we did on that, and before that record came out, those were the two last things we really worked on. I think those last two tracks. You know,
yeah.
I mean,
we've certainly discussed writing another album. We'll see how that pans out. But I'm down. I'm ready. I'm fired up. Like, and I'm psyched. I'm happy the record's out, and I'm looking forward to, you know, writing more and playing shows.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally. And I think we've, like, because we had such a break, you know, we had to literally find like a new label and a new team, and you know, it's such a process. And, you know, that was another reason for the delay. It was like COVID and finding a new label and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think now that the new label and stuff is in place, you know, once Dan and I get in the studio, I feel like we could definitely crank out new stuff quite easily. Just being in this new headspace, you know, having a new team behind us.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be cranking out new material pretty soon.
Yeah, I kind of just want to do it just to see if we can actually get a record out quicker than what we have done in the past.
Sometimes it's challenging.
Being at the point where we are at right now.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see if we're a little more effective in that department. But time will tell.
Okay, so we do this thing on My Right Stuff I like to call the hidden talents. And each individual, Dan and Johnny, do you have any individual hidden talents or special powers that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, man.
Hidden talents.
Somebody's a vegetable gardener. I know that.
Well, yeah.
That takes talent. Now you got a green thumb.
I mean,
that takes time and skill.
there's one thing that not a lot of people know about me. There was one point I went through like a little crisis scenario, sort of mentally, just with everything, and I felt like I just needed to get away from music for a minute.
Okay.
And
yeah,
I was just looking for other stuff to do, and I went into this tattoo removal place one day because there was a tattoo that was just like annoying me, and I was curious about the process of that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to the girl there, and I was like, "Yeah, this is like a real racket. This is like a thing. Like, let me look into this." So I looked into it, and then I was gonna get out of music for a time, and I wanted to set up a tattoo removal studio, and I went and got certified. So I'm actually a certified laser tech that can remove.
That's awesome.
I'll ever use it in my life. I'm not 100% sure, but
okay.
There's that.
Still a hidden talent.
I'm licensed to shoot a laser.
Sweet.
Johnny? Oh man, I think well, when all the touring stopped and I started this bar, right? So I ran this bar in Williamsburg, Brooklyn for 3 years, and I was just booking all my friends and ramming like hundreds of people into this bar, and it got shut down by the police. So when that happened, I was like, what am I going to do? All I've done is play punk rock music and work in a bar for the last 10 years. I was like, I had a real moment of crisis. Yeah. So I literally took on an apprenticeship as a video editor, and I was literally like 36 years old with like 16-year-olds, you know, like, and I was just like, what am I doing? You know, like I had owned a bar, I had 15 employees, and now I'm sitting with another 16-year-old as an apprentice video maker. So I ended up just staying with this company, and I worked my way up from an editor to a shooter to a director. And now that's what I do. I work as a DP and an editor on documentary films. So that's kind of my occupation. So yeah, that's my secret. And I mean, I just think that's also why we haven't made so much music, because I mean, you know, I kind of got off touring just like, I had a real crisis. Just like, what do you do when you stop touring? You know, like I needed an occupation, and I think all that DIY touring really helped me in the sense that I totally DIY taught myself into a new career. So I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, as far as my I actually did. I was kind of split. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I've always had engineering and music around me, and it was at the end of it all. Once I got that license for that whole business venture, actually it worked out the timing, because if I was to set up that business, the pandemic would have just blown that clean out of the water anyway.
Right.
But when it boiled down to it, it was either between that or I was going to because I was mastering records for a few years before the fact. And then I was kind of at a stage where, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. But I mean, long story short, I don't remove tattoos. And I just master records. Which I'm really glad that I made that decision.
Right.
You know, I built a studio out here in Queens. And I'm glad I made that decision.
Excellent.
So if any of our viewers or actually listeners actually want to know more about you, where actually would they go to find those bits out?
Just your regular places, thedeathset.com, Instagram, The Death Set, Facebook, The Death Set, Twitter, The Death Set. And I mean, if you're feeling randy, you could always just drop us an email. And if you want to collab or work, you know, like hit us up, thedeathset@gmail.com.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you guys. This has been a very, very informative and really fun episode. And I love learning all about the Death Set. And it's been awesome to get these videos narrated as we show the audience. And thanks again for taking the time to be on this episode of My Right Stuff.
Thanks so much,
Absolute pleasure, Toby. Thank you. And Gareth, thank you so much for all the support over the years.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I also want to thank my distinguished co-host, Mr. Gareth Dyton, and our whole My Right Stuff crew for making this podcast possible every week. Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you very much, Toby. Thank you, fellas. It's been absolutely great to actually catch up with you. And no star, my lovelies. Take care, and we'll catch you next time.
Do you suffer from insomnia, depression, anxiety? Well, our sponsor, TAUMMHOMS, might be able to help you in these areas. TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal helping people globally to get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. And you can find this piece of gold at TAUMMHOMS.com. That's www.TAUMMHOMS.com. Well, most of all, a big thank you to all of you who stream, download, watch, and support My Right Stuff. And please keep spreading the word, my friends. I really, really do appreciate it. Also, we now have a merch store that you can pick up some snazzy merch for those bodies. Go to myrightstuff.com and click on the store tab and get some very cool swag. Well, when you do, don't forget to tag us in any photos with our merch so we can give you a live shout out in an episode. And please remember to subscribe on YouTube so you never miss an episode. I hear it will also give you 10 years good luck. All right, we'll ring that bell for those notifications. This has been another exciting episode of My Right Stuff. Be sure to tune in next week and every week for yet another adventurous and informative show. I'm your host, Lord Toby Wright, and remember to listen loud, play hard, and keep reaching for your dreams. Good night.
Thank you for watching My Right Stuff. This episode was brought to you by TAUMMHOMS, a natural sleep and sound healing portal available globally at www.taumms.com. That's www.taummmhoms.com.